So whether you like it or not.
It'll be fine.
That's a very green room. There's a lot of plants in there, and the walls are green as well. Is that deliberate, all the greenness?
Yeah, semi. Yeah, I mean, it's not my choices. In fairness, the walls were. Green is my favourite colour, so
Okay.
can't beat the lush green of Ireland.
That's accurate, yeah. Whereabouts you're in the north of England, are you?
Wet Manchester, yeah.
Okay, right. Not much, not much greenery there. Are you in the city or where are you?
I'm right near the airport actually, so the planes fly right over the house.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm from Yorkshire originally.
Okay.
So
Whereabouts
I got my
whereabouts in
passport.
Yorkshire?
The East Coast near a place called Filey. It's near Scarborough.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah,
cool. I didn't even
too long.
I don't think I knew Yorkshire had a coastline. So that's something new that I've learned. I don't know. What was the name of the place? The last place that you said begins with an S.
Scarborough.
Scarborough. There's a hospital in Scarborough, I think. Is there?
Yeah, there is.
I think my sister-in-law, she's a dietitian. She worked in York. I think she had to do a day a week in Scarborough or something. I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Geez, we're off to a flyer. This is. I've really driven it into the ground like 5 seconds in. I was looking you up. Thanks for doing this, first of all. I appreciate you coming on. I was looking you up. There's not a huge amount to be found. You haven't left a major footprint. Is that deliberate? Like, do you kind of like, you seem like do you kind of deliberately fly under the radar a bit, like stick to people who find you and then gravitate towards you naturally, rather than going out looking for people and, like, blowing your own trumpet kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I've always just been a big believer of word of mouth. And if you ultimately have to go out and search for clients and you're begging clients to work for you, then you get yourself starting off on the wrong foot anyway. So when people come and knock on your door, then automatically well, this person's sought me out for a reason. So they've done the research, and here we are off to a reasonable start already. Whereas I say this whole new wave CrossFit companies sponsoring athletes, I worry for the athletes first and foremost, because the athletes need to consider, is this really in my best interests, or is this in that company's best interests? Is my own personal take on it.
Do you mean like the training program rather than like NOCO or whatever? Do you mean like a coach or a training house sponsoring an athlete more so than
coaches knocking on? I hate coaches knocking on athletes' doors saying, I'm the one to turn your performance around. Why you? Is always my question. And what's in it for you? Because there's clearly something in it for you. It's the old cynical brain I've got. But yeah, so that's.
Have you had that happen to you? Have you been working with an athlete and had them come to you and say, oh, such and such is offering to pay me, or such and such has said they can get me to X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, I know athletes I've worked with where they get tapped up or trying to get tapped up, but yeah, that's all part of the process. And the amount of people I've helped over the years have said, oh, so and so from such and such a program messaged me. Like, I've never slid into somebody's DMs and never will. And yeah, on that whole staying under the radar, there's always something I can be doing to be better as a coach. Working on myself and talking on Instagram isn't making me better as a coach. It's just making me better at talking. So I'd rather read a book, do some research, reflect on what I've done for the day, and get better that way, rather than just waste time being more noise within the noise.
Yeah. Do you find that is there a like an archetypal person that comes to you then? Like, do you think, are you a specific answer to a specific question? Do you think? Have you found that? But have you found that, like, say, like, I could list 2 or 3 athletes that you work with now, and I'm wondering, is there a commonality between them other than the fact that they want to be good competitors or good at CrossFit and move well or whatever? Is there a common thread, do you think, through all the people that you've worked with that has led them to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the common denominator is they've been, for one, broken by coaches, training programs themselves, even working, doing too much, doing too much intensity. Yeah, that training balance is off, poor movement patterns. So the people that kind of feel like they want to push themselves to another level, but are just running themselves into the ground and hitting a wall, and they're struggling to reach that next stage. So that really is the most common theme, basically.
And what do you do, like, when you say, if I come to you and I've been you said broken, I assume you mean like surgery and in like repetitive injuries and that kind of, like, just kind of ground into the ground, driven into the ground a bit. If I come to you having done that for 2-3 years, do you, because I spoke, you train you coach Emma McQuaid, and I've spoken to her about when she started off with you and what was different and what it was like and stuff. And it was funny because her and I don't think she'll mind me speaking for her, but her attitude towards it at the start was like, this is so stupid. Like, she was like, I'm not ready. I'm not like, I'm not firing yet. And I'm at a competition and this is so dumb. And I'm going to be like humiliated. And then it like went really well. And she was like, oh shit. Okay. But she was like, she had done nothing. It was so far removed from what she had been doing up until that point that it felt like she was like just kind of treading water a bit and wasn't actually doing anything, that because she wasn't, her heart rate wasn't through the roof every like 2 hours, and she wasn't like she wasn't like breaking herself basically. Well, like, is it with all the athletes that you take on, do you I'm trying to think of a comparison. Like, I started with a nutritionist there a while ago, and they said, oh, the first thing we're going to do for the first few weeks is get you back to it like a base level. So it might feel like you're eating too much, or it might feel like it doesn't make sense, but we're just getting you to like a normal level. And then we'll start working from there, rather than cutting you now and not knowing what you've been doing for the last few weeks. And you could have been up, you could have been down, we don't know. Is it the same approach that you have when an athlete comes to you, where you're like, right, we're going to do like a shitload of cardio or whatever, a shitload of engine work for X amount of time, just so that we know we're starting like essentially fresh in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
Well, where the base phase is will depend on the person, but generally it's kind of splitting the CrossFit game down into segments. So you're kind of going, well, or physical qualities, so to speak. So yes, you've got cardiovascular endurance, you've got strength, power, you've got then the specific skills, so gymnastics, weightlifting skills, because obviously we can work strength and power as their raw entities, versus then putting them into sport specific kind of tasks. So it's kind of figuring out where they sit within each kind of domain and going, well, is this person are they more powerful than they are durable, or vice versa? And then therefore they might start actually at opposite ends. But it is kind of just getting that balance of training and going more, finding you can't always push everything at 100% all the time. So within each training block, it's going, right, the focus of this training block, our primary focus is your aerobic work could be super, super easy, and you almost feel like, what's the point? But when that barbell's on your back, I want you to bleed out your ears and work hard. And that's where you're working hard within that on that day, throughout that week, etc. And it's knowing that, like I say, you've only got, we talk about how many tickets you've got to cash or how many chips you're going to cash in this week. Like, you've only got so many chips to cash in before you end up in negative. So it's choosing where the most important places are for those people to be working hard versus smart. So yeah, it really does depend. A lot of people they think they're fit, but they don't understand what fitness or cardiovascular fitness is. So they think that the ability to burn themselves into the ground is fitness, whereas actually fitness is how quickly you recover. So a lot of the time that takes less, when I say effort, it's less painful than you think, which is great. So that's kind of what Emma would have experienced in the beginning of like this long, slow, just steady build of cardio, where she was just used to grinding herself into the ground. But then her heart rate, she just got very good at, or her heart rate operating at high intensities. But your body can only do that for so long before it has be that injury-wise, overuse injury, an accidental injury, or some people like metabolic, fatigues, or early stages of fatigues or repetitive illness. Like, choose your, like I'm someone that suffers with, I've got an autoimmune condition, so I spend a lot of time working, and I cash a lot of my chips whilst I'm working, and I have to be very careful with how I, if I do exercise, how hard I exercise, because I can quite quickly turn my health and flip it. So I choose my clients' health and fitness over my own.
What's the autoimmune disease you have?
I've got ulcerative colitis.
Okay, that's like guts, kind of, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's basically the lower portion of the colon is ulcerated, basically. So I can go into further details if you want.
I think I get the picture. Yeah, I was. Have you got kids?
I've got 2 kids. Yeah.
What age are they?
9 and almost 2.
Okay, I've got a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and like, don't take offense to the fact that ulcerative colitis brought this into my head, but I went into my 3-year-old last night. She was crying, and I went into her room and I was like, "What's wrong?" And like, she was like this in the bed, like her hands are above her head in like a claw, and I was like, "Fuck, is she in loads of pain, or like what's going on?" And I was like, "What's wrong? Like, what's wrong with your hands?" And I took her hands in mine, and I was like, "It's all right. Like, what's wrong?" I said, "Did you have a bad dream?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, that's all right." Like, I was like, "Dad's here." And then she put her hands on my face and was like rubbing my beard. And I was like, "Oh, this is so nice. She's obviously getting comfort from the fact that like she can feel my beard. That's really cool." And then she put her hands back in my hands again. And I was like, "Her hands are kind of sticky." I was like, "What is on her hands?" And I looked, her headboard was like, there was like, and I was like, "Oh fuck, is it blood? Is she bleeding?" And she said the words at the exact same time that I realized what was happening. And she just goes, "Poo poo." And I was like, I just was like, "That's okay." And I walked outside, rang my wife on my phone. Like, my hands are covered in shit. Rang my wife on my phone. And I was like, "Can you come up, bring up nappies and a wipe, and don't laugh when you come in?" And she was like, "Okay." And then she came in and she was like, "Oh my God, it's it." And I was like, "Shh, stop. Like, you're freaking out. Isn't going to have this." And then we walked outside the room and she goes, "It's all over your face." Yeah. So that was my night. And then my daughter came down this morning. She's having her breakfast, and I was like, "Do you know what you did last night?" And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "You know, you did a poo." And she's like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "Do you know what you did to me?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, rubbed your beard." It's like, yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, I'm not sure why ulcerative colitis put that into my head, but just when you were talking about, I think you were hinting at too much detail, and I was like, "Mate, you cannot go into too much detail."
Oh, well, yeah. So yeah, I mean, effectively, yeah, you're right. It affects your number twos.
Yeah.
It can be. It can look like
How long have you had that for?
Since I was 15.
Wow. And is that like brought on? Is that like, does trauma bring it on? Is it just genetics? Is it just bad luck?
They don't with autoimmune conditions. They still don't know the cause of autoimmune, which is why technically there's no cure for any of the autoimmune conditions. So you just can call it systemic inflammation. But mine happened after I had like a tonsillitis, and I needed 2 courses of antibiotics for this tonsillitis. And it was going through as I was going through. I was actually going on football trials for Manchester United at the same time. So I'd been ill, had 2 courses of antibiotics, and then was away from home for 2 weeks. My boyhood dream club.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a cocktail of stress meets antibiotics killing off your gut bacteria, and then it just ended up in colitis from that point, basically.
And the stuff you said there, the training, you have to be kind of careful how much exertion you put out and stuff. Does other things affect it as well? Like if you eat certain foods, is it like, oh, no, I can't have that? Like that's going to be a nightmare tomorrow or the next day, or does that work like that?
I've got foods are sensitive to it, but as much as anything, it's it's purely my output. So as Emma or Mickey will tell you, there's a lot goes on inside this head, so it doesn't really stop. So yeah, I'm basically kind of just always burning. That's not in a sense of like being stressed. It's just like there's a lot of, you're just making a lot of decisions all the time, and the more you study, the more you know, the more possibilities you've got. So then you're kind of always like, well, could it be that? Or could it be that? Or I could do that? Or I could do that? And whereas the less you know, the better it will be. But
it sounds like you've gone too far down that road now. It's like this curse and knowledge thing where you can't unlearn it, so you're just kind of stuck.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's why I do it. Basically, I absolutely just in a lucky place where I just love the topic, love working with athletes, just love just helping them achieve what they want to achieve. Like I say, as I always say, it's not my. Coming back to your original question, it's not my story; it's their story, and I'm just a part of their story. I'm not there for the limelight. I just want to help them achieve something and be a part of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
You mentioned football there, so usually when people say in bios or wherever that like, oh yeah, I played a bit of football, usually it's like, you know, I played a bit of football where I kicked the ball against the wall and I can do some keepy uppies and shit like. But you were obviously at a level where you actually could properly play football.
Well, I was a goalkeeper, so we could always do can a goalkeeper play football? So yeah.
Yeah, you could catch.
I was in the year where I could catch a football and throw it, and I was actually all right outfield, like for a to a certain level, but not at the top level. No, it's like a local school level and more kind of county level. Actually, my school team won the county cup, and I played outfield in that team. So yeah, on that level, I was all right outfield. But yeah, I was a goalkeeper. So it was I had a good time. It was fun.
So when you said there you got sick when you were 15, or you got your autoimmune thing when you were 15, and you said that you were at trials for Man United around the same time. So that was like, how close were you to signing or to being brought on, or was it like, were you like on the precipice of it and something happened, or was it just they went for Schmeichel instead or whatever?
Yeah, no, I played I was there for those 2 weeks, and then they signed me. So I agreed. I was 15 at the time. My mum wouldn't let me move away from home at 15. She said you need to finish your GCSEs where you are. So I was basically getting on the train every weekend. Every Friday, I got to leave school early, get on the train over to Manchester. I'd train all day Saturday in Manchester, and then all day, and then Sunday, and then I'd come home Sunday night, and sometimes I'd still stay and play for my Scarborough. I was signed on the books of Scarborough, so I was still allowed to play for them. So I'd kind of alternate between training in Manchester and then playing for Scarborough on alternate weekends. So then I agreed to sign for them when I was 16 and move over. So it was on the books for 4 years, made it to the reserves.
What age are you?
39. So
okay. So who else was there when you were there? Because that's the just previous crop, basically. That's like two.
Yeah,
that's like Ferguson's last group.
Yeah, so Darren Fletcher's my year. So I've trained with the first team. So it was Ronaldo's first year. My last year was Ronaldo's first. I missed out on Rooney, but yeah, I got a year with Ronaldo. And then my last year, I was training with the first team regularly. So I played with that whole Beckham, Giggs, Keane, Neville's, Paul Scholes, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Yeah, the list. But yeah, great players.
Wow.
I've got some great memories, unbelievable memories. Super proud of them, and yeah, good I didn't make it, but it's I'm doing what I'm probably supposed to do now. I should think.
How much were you earning when you were training with the first team?
I think I was on a mighty £470 a week, which is not bad for a 20-year-old.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Back in the day. So yeah, that was like the turning point where the young lads then started to get paid silly money. So you had like younger, we had like, I remember a couple of, so the under 17s then started to be paid something like £1,000, £2,000 a week and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just on that turning point where they started earning money that they didn't deserve.
And what? So you oh no, they fucking don't. Of course they don't. You were about 20 when you left.
Yeah, that's right.
And what happened that you finished up?
So I went on a few trials. I had a really good trial, but didn't get anything, and that was probably a bit of a nail in the coffin, to be honest, because then I was like, right, I've just played well, so what do I even need to do? I don't even understand how well do I have to play if I played that well and I didn't get anything. And I'm my own worst critic for those people that kind of know me. So yeah, that was kind of like the beginning, and then I ended up I was traveling. I didn't have an agent, so I was kind of just driving around the country, responding to. I wrote letters to every club basically, and was waiting on kind of hearing back for trials. And I was driving around the country and ended up with tore a quad on. Went to Boston United, and we did circuit training in the morning. A spin class followed by circuit training. Rested, had lunch, and then went out and did max sprints in the afternoon. Tore my quad, so I didn't finish the max sprints. But because I didn't have a club or I just wanted a contract, I kept playing with this torn quad, and obviously I was in goal and didn't have to run, but it was my kicking leg. So I was just getting the ball. Whenever I get the ball in my hands, I'd just throw it out, because that's what we did at United anyway. We would just play out from the back and distribute the ball with your hands, and then the manager was like, "Fucking kick it!" And I was like, "I can't. My leg's hanging off." So basically, kind of just had to. He was like, "Right, go home." So I decided I didn't want to go back there anyway. So because it was, not how I wanted it to be, and then ended up moving to another club and was driving around, and then ended up with nerve pain running down one side. So had injuries, was still playing with these injuries and wasn't playing well, and losing confidence, and then just got sick of being told no, and it was like, right, I think I'm done. I can't take any more. I think I went, just before my 21st birthday, me and my wife, we went away for my 21st, and it was like, oh, this was actually really nice just to go away for a weekend in the middle of the season, and I was like, you know what, let's just call it, and then went into the fitness industry. So you could say that story is why I'm kind of working with athletes in a similar place as myself.
When you say you went into the fitness industry, what did you do? Had you been doing stuff obviously you're aware of stuff, I suppose, when you're training day in and day out, you're kind of taking in stuff. But did you do like courses? Did you get an internship, or what did you do?
Yeah, I did a personal training diploma. So like a 3-month intensive personal training diploma with Premier Training, who I think are now called Premier Global, part of NASM or something. They are still going. They were like the original kind of personal training one of the leading kind of providers. So yeah, that was 3-month intensive personal training, sports, massage therapy. So came out with level 3 in both of those, and then yeah, went working first of all was working in a gym as a gym instructor, looking after a gym, and then went for it as a full-time PT, paying salary, so paying a rent. So signed for LA Fitness. LA Fitness company. I don't know if you had LA Fitness gyms in Ireland or not.
I know them from like the UK, like from following UK people. They were yeah.
So LA Fitness, I signed went with them, and I think it was like £600 a month in rent or whatever it was. So yeah, did that, and then moved gyms about 3 years later, and then found CrossFit. Still worked in the gym, and then took my PT clients mobile, and then started working with people on movements and injuries within CrossFit, and then that kind of just developed from just working on movement and injuries into then the actual coaching side, because people were coming to me with the things I was working on. I was like, well, we're working on the right thing. Like, what have you been doing in training? Because I'd just reassess them and go, well, have I missed something? And I was like, well, show me your training program. And I was like, well, you struggle to squat, and you're squatting 3 times a week. So I'm not surprised your knees are complaining, aren't you? Until you squat better. So then it ended up kind of just coaching people, and yeah, here we are.
When you found CrossFit as someone who was kind of injury focused, when you walked into a CrossFit gym, were you like, fucking bingo? Or like did you see these people who were like coming in for an hour a day fucking destroying themselves, and like were you like, oh yes, this is, forget that 600 quid rent, this is a cash cow here?
No, I literally, it was just it was the stuff that I was studying at the time. Just, it was always then about the movement and developing movement, and that kind of went hand in hand with what the CrossFit philosophy was. So then it was literally just a perfect place where people cared about it. Like, what CrossFit teaches so well is that, teaches mechanics, consistency, intensity. Like, it's that base of mechanics, and being able to move well is the most important part, and people just really start to kind of take care of it and want to achieve it. Whereas as a personal trainer in a gym, like with those kind of thoughts and skills, like people just want to sweat, so you don't necessarily get a chance to use that stuff, and you're dealing with different people with different goals. So it was just kind of aligned with my interest, was aligned with the CrossFit fundamentals. So the two things just went hand in hand, really. So it's from that perspective, it was more we just similar values on that front.
And what did you do? You were still doing it solo, and people were coming to you with injuries, and then you were looking at the program and saying, oh, you probably shouldn't do this, you should do this. And did it just sort of develop like snowball like that, where you ended up being people's coach? And then like, where did you go from there? Because you were at Red Pill, were you?
Yeah, so where it went, it was so I started coaching Briggsy in the end of 2016. So I was coaching Briggsy, which was at the time was Briggsy had retired and was like, my shoulder's goosed, I need shoulder surgery. And it was pretty much just like, well, let me see if we can get you back healthy. And literally from there, it was, she went, and 3 months later, won podiumed at Dubai, podiumed at Dubai after surgery, and then then went to the games again, and then literally then it was like, I think it was like 2017. Yeah, so that 2017 prep where Emma then Sam and Emma became friends and training partners. So Sam would go over and train with Emma, and then Emma would come over and train with Sam, and like we ended up doing a training camp in Denmark with Phil, my mentor and like friend at Red Pill. But like I said, at the time I was still on my own there. I was like, oh, let's just go out and have a training camp out there, and Phil get his eyes on you as well as mine, type thing. And so then I think then Emma wanted to start with me after the 2017 season had finished, and then we started for the 2018 season. And it pretty much, that's how it kind of developed. And bit by bit, then more people came involved, and I was like, turned to Phil and was like, I need help, and like it's more people than I can cope with. And then we started Red Pill effectively. And yeah, so that's kind of how the kind of the cycle went. And then had worked at Red Pill for 17 till I kind of officially left kind of September of last year. I've still got so I run the generic program for Red Pill. So we kind of split things down, and I've kind of taken that and then left the other side of it because I just what I was saying about doing too much and my health and stuff, it was getting in the way of family life and everything like that. So I just decided to take a step back basically, and just go back to the simple life where and that was it, and here we are really.
And so how many athletes do you have now? Like how many like full-time you do everything for them athletes?
Full-time across different levels, I think around about 10.
Okay.
So we've got, I don't just work with elite. I work with we've got people that just want health and fitness, and just a nice mix. Again, I like that mix, and it's amazing what I love about that spectrum of people is when you work with the people that struggle to pick up skills that the elite sometimes seem to do so easily. Like you find some things that those people can't do, and then you test that in the elite, and they're like, actually, they can't do it either. They're just very good at hiding it. So then you get to work on like these really simple things with the elites that are then, when we talked about that low stress side of things, and go, well, it's low stress and they're getting better, and it's helping transfer into X, Y, Z. Then that's why I love that spectrum of people. So I'm not purely elite only or anything like that. It really is just if it's a project that excites me, then I'm all in, basically.
It's interesting. So like when I said that you were coming on, I got messages from a lot of people in like say Emma's circle, or people who like have spent time up for quarterfinals or for the Open and that kind of stuff. And they all, okay, like Mickey's focusing on your aesthetic appearance and the best looking James from England. I'm not sure why he's put from England there. It's kind of a backhanded compliment. It's like only not even the UK, just like England. But you might as well just said like Manchester. It's just kind of a low grade insult but compliment.
I mean, he only took pictures of me from behind, so it says it all.
But it is interesting how you say that you have this low that kind of low threshold for putting yourself out there, and that like it's I guess like you struggle to see the value in it and stuff. But it's interesting how the amount of messages I got from people who have met you who are like, oh, nice, like who were excited to hear what you had to say, and who had heard you speak or heard you even like converse with an athlete at an event or at some kind of competition or something, and obviously walked away being like, oh shit, that guy really knows his stuff. And I think like that's part of the reason why I was so keen to get you on, because you might not see the value in talking to people on Instagram or that kind of stuff, but it's remarkable how you give the example there of you're working with an everyday athlete, and you say like, oh, they can't do this, and you look at the elite and you're like, oh shit, they can't do it either. But you'd be amazed at how many in both camps don't know shit that you assume that one of the camps know, and the other one might not know. Like, you'd assume the elites all know X, Y, or Z. And then when you get someone like you on, you have people saying like, oh shit, I never actually thought of it that way, or I never realized that. Or even, you know, like you've mentioned a few athletes there that you took on who you had to explain what fitness was because there's just a misconception or like a misunderstanding of what it is. That there is that thing of like, just keep running into the fucking wall as hard as you can and eventually you'll go through it, as opposed to like, oh, have you ever thought of just like going around and using the door and like, you know, just like not damaging yourself. But yeah, I think like one of the reasons I was so keen to get you on was because you don't do a lot of it. And then the second reason, I always find it interesting, someone who has a low following comparatively, you know, compared to other coaches, will say, and a high success rate. Like, I'd call you one of the most successful coaches in the sport and one of the most underrated or unknown coaches in the sport by, like, say, media or like experts and stuff. I feel like there's, you know, you mentioned noise and stuff and getting lost in the noise or making more noise in the noise. There's a lot of people who make a lot of noise who've done fuck all. And then there's, you know, you kind of don't really say anything aloud apart from to the people that are standing beside you, but you've done more than most and you've seen and done more than most. And I was keen to, you brought up Sam. So when you started working with her, she had already won the games when you started working with her, correct?
So I've actually helped Briggsy since 2000 and we began that season of 2011.
Okay.
Basically, so I did the movement stuff with Briggsy back in 2011, and we went like improved the just helped her with bits there through to that 2011 games. Then 2012. It was myself and Carl Steadman that were, I was in charge of the movement stuff. Carl Steadman was doing like the CrossFit programming. And I think at that point, she started with, I don't know if she was following other bits. So like she had like some influence from like strength coach. I can't remember where it was on the timeline there, but we had to pull her out with the knee injury, which was the fracture of the patella. Sorry, excuse me. And then we had that year there of like, right, well, let's really work on that initial thing, like just moving better. And obviously 2013, she then won the games. And that's actually when I would have been there, but it was the year my daughter was due. So she was born on she actually didn't come the weekend of the game. She decided
could have gone. You could have gone.
Yeah, could have gone. Still hold it against her now.
Oh, dead right. I would never fucking let that go.
So I worked with Briggsy then, and then all the way back there, and then kind of there was that little bit of a gap in the middle where she kind of spent that time in the States, so we couldn't do anything, and then kind of hooked back up leading into 2016 is where she came over or was effectively chucked out of the States because she spent too long there. And then we were helping it, like she was struggling with the shoulder then, so we started doing all the work to try and get her through those games in 2016 where she came fourth. But then it was like she was like, oh, I'm done. My body's I think she'd had the back the year before, or was it the foot the year before that, then the back and then the shoulder. She was like, oh, I'm done. And I was like, well, why don't we just if you want me to rebuild you, I'll coach you and let's see what happens. So that's where.
So when you, and I'm not asking you to throw anyone else under the bus, but when you were working with her on movement and she was getting injured, were you like biting your tongue a bit? Like, were you like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this and this? Like, was it hard? Is it hard working as part of a team when it sounds like your philosophies differed a little bit on what should have been being done?
In fairness, I was kind of like, she just came into me for the movement at that point, and I was kind of just solely focused on that. And it was then as I developed over the years where it was like, we're looking at that whole picture, and then I had more of an opinion, I should say, to be able to help with that stuff. At the time it was just help help Briggsy because she was, well, yeah, the most dedicated athlete, pretty much. I think there is, pretty much. I'm sure Emma won't mind me saying that. Like, yeah, Briggsy is a phenomenon on that front.
So how long had you been in, say, the CrossFit sphere before 2011, before you started doing her kind of movement stuff?
So I started doing CrossFit myself in 2006.
Okay. 2006. Wow. So a very early adapter then.
Yeah, I mean, I did the first. So I joined CrossFit Manchester, which was I think there was CrossFit London and CrossFit Manchester. I don't know who came first. I think CrossFit Manchester were claiming it. I'm not too sure. But yeah, that was Carl Steadman's original box. So I joined that as a member. So I was PTing in another gym and then was just going there at lunchtime, and yeah, got myself in the fittest, unhealthiest state of my life. It was great.
Has said every person who's ever done CrossFit ever. I got myself in the healthiest, unfittest place, or fittest, unhealthiest place of my life. Yeah, I think we've all been there.
So yeah, I was complete display model only. Great rig, but yeah, great rig on the outside, dying on the inside. So yeah, and then we did the first ever level 1 was in CrossFit Manchester in the UK. So the UK's first ever level 1, CrossFit Manchester, Greg Glassman. Yeah, so that's early, one of the first really.
You can call yourself an OG. It's fine. You can say OG.
First wave, the OG. Yeah, the OGs.
Yeah. So at what point did because obviously if you're working with Sam, that's like sport of CrossFit. That's like the big show. That's like I guess 2011 maybe not so, but I suppose the next couple of years after that was like the glitz and glamour kind of thing started to come in, where it was like, you know, a stadium as opposed to like the ranch, and it was a bit like glossy and that kind of stuff. At what point did that become something that you became interested in? Like, was it always, you know, you mentioned there about like that you want to help people and help people get better. Was that just kind of a natural byproduct that the people who were coming to you happened to be in this realm and were the competitive athletes, or is it something that you were like, oh, that could be fun to get involved in?
Yeah, no, it was pretty much that was just a byproduct of doing what I did, like, because you were helping people get through pains, move better. Like I said, the guys that were more competitive had more adherence to that, and I'm sure, as you've heard speaking to the guys, is the stuff that I do. It's, well, as Emma, as to quote Emma, it's silly. How does this work? Like that is, it's only for the people that are dedicated, really, or either the people that are dedicated or the people that have no other option because they're so broken. So that was kind of of where it kind of naturally kind of sits in, because most people, they just want to, we're all time precious. Like, they want to go in a gym, they just want to put the kit on, do the training session and go home. They don't want to go, oh, well, I've got to do 20 minutes of this before I can do that, and blah blah blah. So yeah, it was kind of just a natural, like the stuff I was applying, it was just really only appealed to certain groups of people, the competitive sphere being one of them. And as I say, having been competitive since I can remember, be it board games to yeah, playing football. Like, I've always been super competitive, and I kind of realised in those early, I went into CrossFit 2006 to 7, and then I think somebody asked me to play football again. I literally just completely stepped away from it. Like, went back to play semi-pro briefly, hated every minute of it, and then I think I was watching one of the guys that was at United with, I think he was playing for Barnsley, and they played Liverpool in the FA Cup, and he was a goalkeeper as well, and like, he had an absolute worldie, and I was just like, oh, you know what, I missed that feeling of playing in goal. And then somebody asked me to go play just for a Sunday league team in this cup thing, and then a guy was there watching. He was like, oh, and I ended up playing back at like what's called Northwest Counties level, which can't remember what tier it is now, but it's semi-pro. Like some of the teams paid money and some of them didn't. And, actually, I tried to get back into it properly then and pay money, and I was driving like an hour for training and all this, and I was getting like £80 a week and stuff. But I was literally just sat on the bench because, again, the club that I'd gone to, the goalkeeper was the captain, so I was never going to play. So I was like, I got back into football to play. I don't care about earning £80 a week and saying that I'm a professional. Oh, I'm saying I'm a footballer when I'm not a footballer. I just want to play football. Like, I've not played it for 3 years, so I got the bug back again. And then one guy in the North West Counties was like, look, we're not paying any money, but if you can put one foot in front of the other, you'll play for me. And I was like, that's the honesty I need. I just want to play football. Thank you very much. And I played for him for 3 years, and then the chairman decided he was disbanding the club, and then I was like, and then everyone was leaving, so I was like, well, if I'm not playing for you, then I'm not playing. So I just stopped. But I had 3 great years playing football, and as a CrossFit never replaced what football had. So I could never really get back into it. But by that point, I was really invested in, like, Phil, my mentor, was literally, I was really invested in kind of developing that side of myself. And that became my next focus, really, that I was like, right, well, I'm coaching properly. I'm not, that's what I'm in it for, really.
With Sam, you mentioned like that she's dedicated. Is that like, so like her longevity, obviously you're owed a bit for that. As in, like, the fan, I don't mean she owes you, but like the fans can thank you for her being around for so long, because you obviously played a part in it, like in how she managed to stay put together and, like, like competing at that level. Is it, with someone like her, is it just the dedication? Is it like innate? Like, do you think she worked at that? Is it just inner? Is it like genetics? Is it a combination of those two things plus what you were doing with her, and then like just natural athletic ability that got her to the level that she's able to get to, and then kept her close to that level until, like, fucking 35 years later or whatever, like when she finally quit?
I think, well, no, I think in fairness is, like, there's what helps Briggsy is her mental strength, or the mental strength and capacity to block out pain. So as much as I helped her stay together, as much of it was her willingness. Like, she just wanted to compete and would still be competing now, if she could. Like, it's just, I say, the pain she goes through. I know we're in a minefield of, when I say this, is like every man needs a man test next to Briggsy. So I say that with the respect of how offensive that can be in today's society. But, like, she is the hardest person I know by far. Like, when I think Briggsy cried in front of me 3 times, however many years, and when she cries, I know it hurts, like, and really hurts. Like, so she is absolutely nails. So I put as much of that, like I say, it's that dedication. I don't know, where does dedication come from? I don't know what. I don't know. Is that something you have? Is that just something you're taught? Is that something that just, pass? Is it a skill that can be? There's plenty of people that are dedicated, and unfortunately, I think there's dedication plus talent, and Briggsy's talent is definitely on that ability to. Do you remember the old Sky movies about Steve Prefontaine? Do you know that guy?
Yeah.
It was the one, like, and it was like, oh, so what's it like to have the talent that you've got? And the quote was, I mean, obviously this is just a biography, so whether he actually said this or not, it was like, oh no, I don't think I'm talented. It's literally, I just can put up with more pain than anybody else. And, like, he took his shoe off, and, like, his toes were falling off and stuff. There was just that ability just to keep going. Like, that's what Briggsy has. Is that's her absolute talent, superpower, at all costs, in spite of, like, the performance she put in last year, leading into the semi-finals in Sid, like the amount of training that she'd done or could do, and what she'd done to turn out the times and performances she did, like that's how tough she is. Like I'm blessed to be a part of that. Do I take credit for that? I appreciate people's sentiment. I think as much as anything, like Briggsy is like, that's Briggsy.
No, I'd put it 90% you, and she can take a little bit of credit, but I think it's mainly. It seems a common denominator though, where I guess maybe it's something that's common in a lot of athletes at that level, is that ability to, like, I suppose the common phrase in CrossFit is to go dark, or to go into the pain cave and just build a bed in there and stay there for like too long or whatever. But like, you look at, say, Emma, who essentially, if you look at the last 2 years, hasn't had a smooth competition out of any of the competitions she's basically done in the last 2. Like, you look back to Rogue, where she came home from the games, had COVID, went to Rogue, was like fucked at Rogue, still gave like a good performance, like came back, had a bit of an off season, went to Miami, won Wadapalooza, came back. Like, I think she was sick for the Open, and then wasn't great for quarterfinals. I think then she was fine again, semifinals, and then she was injured then in the lead up to the games, kind of after semifinals, and then this year then she was under the weather for, like, it just seems like this constant stream of like reasons not to do it, or reasons to just say, like, actually, maybe I'll just leave it this year. Do you think that is that kind of determination or the grit that I suppose Briggsy probably has more of than others, but like, do you think that's a common factor in just CrossFit athletes, that they're the people that are in, say, the top 12, top 15 in either gender are just able to overcome those type of setbacks that other people would be like, you're like, sorry, yeah, I'm pulling out, it was a shit lead up, I'm not doing it. Whereas other people, those top 10, 15 athletes in either side are like, no, fuck it, I'll keep going and I'll finish 9th, or I'll keep going and I'll win it, or whatever.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's exclusive to CrossFit, to be fair. I think it's exclusive in elite mindset and elite sport. Like, if we look at Andy Murray playing at the level he played at, with a hip that was absolutely like a 60-year-old's. So you've got the guy there in tennis achieving that. If you watch The Last Dance, the basketball, the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, like, all those guys were, like, say, he was on the sideline, couldn't even move with his back. Like, go on the court, do what he did for 15 minutes, come back off again. Like, the guys in the elite, Ronaldo, if you watch the Ronaldo kind of documentaries, the one where he's at the World Cup playing with Achilles tendonitis, like, horrifically in pain. Like, those examples are, I think, is a quality that is something that I fight with the whole time myself, of wanting my athletes to be in a healthy state, but then at the same time respecting that, well, actually at the elite level it doesn't exist, and they need to be able to do that. So I try and keep them as healthy as possible for as long as possible, and then when it's time to take the reins off and just go, right, go, we just fight fires now, and yeah, we get through it. Then that's kind of what I've had to adapt and really work on as a coach, with that philosophy of, like I say, I'd say I am a therapist type, a therapy leaning coach rather than a performance leaning coach. In always wanting my athletes to be on the healthier side rather than really pushing that top gear is where I naturally kind of safety zone towards, and I've almost got to kind of push myself into that realm and let them, like, yeah, just go now, go. So I have that inner voice in a battle all the time.
Is that why you work with non-elite athletes as well then? Does it kind of appease that side of you to be able to be like talk to someone who's human and who's able to say like, I need a day off, and you go, yes, you do need, well done for saying you need a day off.
Well, I've told you now. No, like I say, it's more just, I just like working with, if people are coachable and they've got something they want to get better at, then I'm just happy.
Like, would it be mentally exhausting, do you think, only working with, say, 5 elite CrossFit Games aspirations athletes?
Completely, yeah, because you're dealing with the emotion side of sport then, because it's their everything. And this is what guys don't, what the competitive guys don't get the respect for, is like I sit there and don't get me wrong, like when it came to when it was Friday night after the crossovers, the guys look like, this is where I teach the athletes. I want them to be self-sufficient, because when they're on the floor, I'm not there. They have to be able to do everything and make decisions without me. But here on the Friday night, it's like, right, so do we retest the crossovers, yes or no? So we just did the crossovers. Like Emma started the crossovers, was because she was ill, like she was literally all over the manor, and we literally just stopped like in the middle of the first round, went, nope, go back, have some rest, come back. And she just went through it and got through it, and got the score. And we did it once, and then the decision was like, so we're going to go again. And I was like, this is where the pressure came onto me. And like on Saturday morning, I was like, right, okay, so I've got a post to do if this goes wrong. It's all on me, because it was my decision of like, right, well, I'd rather us not with those crossovers. It just takes a trip. It's basically like double unders however many years ago, where if you trip, like people would want to retest just because they tripped, and every time you trip, it's 30 seconds and it's reps and blah blah blah. But you're not guaranteed to get more reps. So it's like, well, do we take the fact that this is going to be, it is a lottery? So the scores on this workout are a lottery. We don't know what we're going to get. We don't know how rewarding or likewise punishing it's going to be. Let's put that one to bed and let's attack the other workouts with not knowing. I said, do we do that workout again? And then the first round is rubbish. Should we stop? And then we go again. And then before you know it, you've done 4 extra rounds before you then get the perfect round. So actually now you've done the workout 3 times, hitting 5 rounds per time or whatever. And that's all those lunges, all those snatches. It's like, just leave it and we'll just go and do what we know we can do in the other workouts. And the training and the guys put in a shift and put in great performances. And we didn't have to, but that is that side of a coach where I'd be then coming out and say, it's my job to be silent in the background and let them tell their story. But when it goes wrong, that's where I step forward and hold my hands up and go, that's me as coach, that's my fault. The life of a coach is you let the athletes shine in their success and then you take the shit, which is like, that is the life of a coach. That's why managers get sacked every weekend. But on the sporting context, that people don't realize, like, we can have, like, I'm not in that limelight, I can stay out of that limelight, but we can have a bad day at work and no one's going to know. No one's going, oh, you were so shit whilst you did that podcast. You know, obviously you're more in the limelight than I am, but like, what a poor performance that was. You was just absolutely rubbish. You was terrible. Whereas an athlete, I say, they have a bad workout and that's plastered over everything. Like any athlete, any sport, that's plastered everywhere. Like, they don't get, like, their lives are, they're putting their whole life's work on display for everyone to watch, look at, all the emotions that go into that. It's, as you imagine, the closer it gets to the more important dates, it just goes up in intensity. So there is only so many. A long answer to your question.
No, I enjoyed it. You don't really think people are saying the podcast is shit, though, are you? You don't really think that people are saying that?
Oh, I'm a great time, mate. The poo story that's made my year.
You said there about the crossovers. And I saw, so you're working with Mickey Smith as well as of like
Yeah.
last year, midway through last year, I think.
So we started, December, October
22,
2020,
21.
21. Yeah.
21. So he put up a thing. He said that you basically pulled him out of the ditch after the first workout of quarterfinals. Like, how quickly do you think? So obviously there's pressure on you. You know, you mentioned that there's pressure at those moments to kind of say the right thing, or to speak when you should speak and shut up when you should shut up, and to know the difference and stuff. uh, I guess with Sam and with Emma, that's years of a relationship, years of trust, years of like, you know, body language, little signals that even like consciously you might not be aware of, like of, oh, I better leave her alone, or oh, I need to go over and talk to her. You kind of have this like, there's a spoken language and an unspoken language of when it's appropriate and when it's not and stuff. With someone like Mickey, or with a newer athlete that you're working with, like, do you kind of test things out? Like, how do you know, when to engage and when to step off? Do you kind of try it and then be like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have said that in there, I'll know that for next time? Or like, how do you gauge it when you've got a newer athlete? Or do you, because your athletes find you and gravitate towards you through word of mouth, do you trust that they're ready to hear whatever it is you have to say based on the experiences that you've had before you started working with them?
I think potentially now that second, the second kind of scenario is a bit more apparent. Like I've had the athletes come on and therefore trust my opinion, because of working with Emma and Sam and everything like that for the years that I have. So I think that makes it easier to a certain extent. Yeah, but even then, I mean, Mickey mid workout. In fairness, there was a lot of people talking to him mid workout on one of the workouts, and at one point he told me to f off, although it was directed at the room. I was one screaming at him quite a bit, and literally, like, I didn't take it personally at all, because I know, like I say, at that point in time, they're in the middle of a workout, and all the hormones are heightened. Everything is just, they're in fight or flight. They're in fight mode. So it's not personal. They're just saying what is. So he apologized, which obviously I accepted. But at the same time, I was like, you didn't need to apologize, because I know what it was in that environment. I know that's not you per se. But yeah, it's so, but on that, it's then just pulling them and say, at the end of the day, my job is to help them fulfill their potential. So at that point, it's like, right, well, we are backs against the wall now. This needs to be done. Like, and this is how we take control of the next 3 workouts. And this is what we need to do.
Is it easier to that point then? Is it easier for you, or would you rather, and I don't mean this personally, like, I know, say Mickey was commenting earlier on and he's, was there and stuff. I don't mean it personally against anyone that was there, but would it be easier for you as a coach to have like just you and Emma, and have Emma do the workouts, and then have Emma leave, and then Mickey come in, and just you and Mickey do the workouts together? Or like even just you, Emma, and Mickey do the workouts together, and not have like media or like fans or spectators or what, like? Or is that probably going to lead to a detrimental impact further down the line, when like there's going to be a shit ton of people watching and shouting and everything else?
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I mean, I don't notice them when they're there. I'm just too busy doing what I'm doing, which, going full circle on why don't you post anything, it's like I'm in the middle of doing a session with someone, the last thing I'm thinking about is my social media, and that, oh, I could do with a photo right now of this person doing this so that I can post it later. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking, how do I make this person better? So like at that moment, like all that matters is their performance, and like you said, it's not a case of, they have to be able to do that with X people in the room. Like it's got to be done, and that ability to block it out and block out the, right, well, in the rowing GHD sit-up workout, it's important that Emma and Mickey go together, and that Mickey is going to get off the rower before Emma on that. like by nature of being 6'2" and 30 kilos
built like
heavier.
a brick shithouse. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he is going to get off earlier, and it's important. Like Emma's not racing, she's not racing Mickey, she's racing herself. You're only ever racing yourself. Like you can only get through the workout as fast as you can get through the workout, and as soon as you get caught up in that bubble of a race, that's where it all goes wrong. Because you need to know where the race begins for you first and foremost, and everybody's race begins in a different place.
Were you at the games last year? No.
No, I was coaching from home.
Were you at Wadapalooza when she won? When Emma won?
Also coaching from home.
Were you at the games the year before that?
Yes.
Or Rogue?
Wasn't a Rogue. Rogue coaching from home.
So the games 2021. You were at Strength and Depth, were you?
Yeah, at Strength and Depth. Yeah.
Okay, and so the games 2021, and then Strength and Depth, and then you'll be at Berlin. There's quite a few high-profile moments happening in between those events that you go to. Do you choose? I know you say that you want the athletes to be independent and self-sufficient and that kind of stuff. Do you deliberately avoid going to those type of events? Like, do you not like being there? Do you not like the environment that you're in? Is it that, like, or is it that, like, say family comes first, or is it that you don't feel like you can be useful in that kind of environment, or like what is it that makes you? Because I can picture so many moments at the games or where the camera pans and you see the coach, and I'm curious as to why. Like, I feel like you're an outlier in that, of being like, oh no, I'll be in Salford or I'll be at home or whatever. Like, where it's kind of like, why would you not just go to Madison? Like, you're kind of one of the you're a rarity in the group, and I'm curious as to why.
Yeah, I think that there's elements of it. It's literally, I say, family life, and I'm university as well, full time. Well, I say full time, part time, but I'm in there 3 days a week, so it might as well be full time. So yeah, I kind of got that going on, plus the family. Like the little lad, like 2-year-old, he's a nightmare. Like he's absolutely bananas.
Is your first a girl? Is the older one a girl?
Yeah, girl, and she was literally just an angel. Literally just
was she. So we found that she was like, she's like emotionally unstable, but like physically predictable and like rational and almost a little bit apprehensive about doing stuff. He's a fucking psychopath. Like, he's emotionally quite stable, but he'll destroy, like, everything is break or like jump off or fall off, or I'm wondering, is it a second child thing or is it a boy thing? But like, fuck, he's same as you. It's just like, my God.
Honestly, I think it's predominantly, probably the majority of the time, a boy thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'll have your tomboy girls who will also be like that, but yeah.
I mean, I'm actually. They actually say there's company misery, and it actually makes me feel better that you're suffering a similar fate that I am.
He's bananas, mate. He's absolutely, literally, like, I've had him from day on my own. I'm absolutely knackered. So when it comes to like the wife, she's like, "You can leave me for how long? How many times?" She only lets me have so many passes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So, fair. There's all that goes into it. Like, I love the competition side of it. Like I said, that is where the quarterfinals last weekend, like being over in Ireland for that, like that is where I feel like an athlete again. That's my competition. It's like, right, this is the whole year all together. So I absolutely love it. But yeah, from a sense of, we've had some great results with me being at home, because actually there's elements of it where sometimes when I'm at home, there's certain things I believe I actually do better from home than when I'm there. That ability of myself to control my emotions is easier from home, just seeing the workout, versus getting caught up in the stories and drama that they try and create. Yeah, all that stuff. So there's elements of I do love both, but I also know that working from home sometimes I sometimes feel I do a better job.
Have you got any personal aspirations? So I know you're kind of saying about that you help people, and that's admirable and everything, but like as you say, you're competitive. So I'm curious, do you look at things like, oh, I want to have someone on the podium at the games, or I'd love to coach a team to the games, or I'd love to, or like if they brought back what the fuck is it called? Oh my god. The Invitational, I'd love to do like the European team, or like have you got any of those kind of things in your head where like, oh, that'd be a bucket list that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the interesting thing is it honestly doesn't. When you asked me 4 years ago, I probably would have said yes. Whereas now, literally, I honestly just like, that's why I'm at university. I literally just love the topic. I love anatomy, physiology, strength, conditioning. I love all of it. Like, it literally is an absolute passion, and being able to help people apply it to that. It honestly doesn't matter, because regardless of, I've had a girl come into me, girl that I've been working with now for the last 3 months, just on my one-to-one clinic. She's had back pain for a year, 18 months, not been able to train at all, like scared to cough, sneeze, and she's now squatting, deadlifting, like doing things she couldn't do. Like the actual, it is cool to say yes. I helped Sam podium here, Emma podium here, them achieve that level and get to the games here. I've worked with Premiership footballers, etc. It's all cool, but there's as much reward in that person not like seeing that person come in with a smile on their face because they're not living in chronic pain. Like that's just as rewarding. So it's just, yeah, it does really kind of keep that competitive side. Is like I say, no one, the brutality of sport, and this is what I always talk to the athletes about, is I always use this CrossFit analogy first and foremost, is who finished third at the games 4 years ago?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you, yeah. Nobody knows. Like, you can't ask me the question.
Yeah.
Like, very few people can absolutely answer that question, and that is the that's the brutality of sport. Is unfortunately no one gives a fuck. Like,
do you know what? It is actually so
about
funny that you brought that up, because I mean I can't answer that question. I'm not going to ruin your analogy by answering it. But I was talking to Steve Fawcett earlier on, and we were kind of talking about how his training has changed and his outlook has changed and stuff. And just he was making a totally separate point, and he essentially just said the exact same thing that you just said, where he was like, it kind of just dawned on me the other day that like nobody gives a fuck. Like he was like, when he was like, it's nice when you qualify for something. He's on the bubble for semifinals, and he, like people weren't expecting him to be, I guess. And he was like, it's nice, like you're in the kind of zeitgeist for a while. People are congratulating you on it, and saying well done. But he was like, you go to semifinals, they'll congratulate you on it. Make it to the games, they'll win the games. But he was like, the next day they still have to pick up their dog shit and like change a bit. Like they don't give a fuck like when it's over. So he's like, if you win, they don't give a fuck. He was like, if you lose, they don't give a fuck. And he was like, it's actually really liberating when you come to that realization. You're like, oh, there's actually whatever perceived pressure you feel like you have on you is essentially non-existent, because actually very few people give a shit outside of like, me, Brian Friend, like other people who are like, a bit obsessive about it. Nobody really gives a fuck outside your core inner circle.
exactly. They're the people that you are. They're the people. Well, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for them, and they're the people that you will never ever let down. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a bad performance. We still know you, love you, etc. It like, whereas unfortunately tomorrow you are today's news, tomorrow's fish chip paper fish and chip paper. Like that is it. And like I said, being in Manchester, like been playing with the players that I say playing with, training with. I didn't get on the pitch with them, but yeah, training with the players that I would love to play is like Dennis Irwin. Like he can, like, I've seen him in Starbucks in the Trafford Centre numerous times, and he can just sit there and nobody bothers him because barely anybody recognises him because it's just a different generation. Like it's not Luke Shaw, so we don't recognise you. Like it's that's the brutality of sport. It's just whoever's in the news now. So yeah, when it comes to myself as a coach, like I get to sit down and however many years time. I mean, I'll still be doing it because that's the great thing about coaching, right? Like the more experience I get, you just get better and better. So it's whether like I can be doing this for as long as I want, effectively. There's no stopping me really. And yeah, a year on year more experience, like you can't beat that. But it is only for me, and it's me being able to sit down with the athletes and send a text message in 10 years' time and go, that was fun, wasn't it? Like, do you remember when? Like that it was alone. Like it's that's all that matters. They're the memories that you've got, and they are for you because nobody else gives a fuck.
Yeah. Well, look, I feel like I could talk to you all night, but I'm conscious that you have a family, and so do I.
Honestly, no, it's fine.
My wife's not. But listen, thanks. I really appreciate you coming on. Like, I'd love to pick your brain a bit more again. This, I feel like I had about 40 things in my head to ask, and I've asked like 5. But I appreciate you coming on. Best of luck with the season, and the people that you're working with. I hopefully get to see you in Berlin. That'd be cool. And yeah, congrats on everything you've achieved. Congrats on everything you've quietly achieved. And I'm sure we'll continue to.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words throughout. It's I appreciate it.
It's fun, man. It's fun.